Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is one of the best-selling video games of all time, and the best-selling Nintendo Switch game, with just over 57 million copies sold as of September 2023. However, since the game was originally released on the Wii U back in 2014, a couple years into the Switch's lifespan, people started to get bored of the game. I mean, by the year 2022, we had been racing on the same tracks for almost 8 years at that point, and we were ready for something new. So, as 2022 started, demand for Mario Kart 9 was through the roof. There was literally no way Nintendo was content with doing absolutely nothing with Mario Kart after it outsold everything else on the system. They had to be working on something. And lo and behold, during a Nintendo Direct on February 9th, 2022, we finally got it. Mario Kart 9.
Paid DLC courses will be coming to the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe game.
Mario Kart 8 Deluxe DLC. When I say this caught literally everyone off guard, I mean everyone. DLC for a port of an 8-year-old game? It made no sense. Honestly though, I don't think anyone cared. We were just happy to finally be getting new Mario Kart content after so long. And now, after almost 2 years, the DLC is finally all out, with 48 new courses and 8 characters added to the game over 6 waves. But with all the controversy that surrounded this DLC since its initial launch, and all the criticism it's received, does it manage to deliver? My name is Mariomikester, and in this video, I'm going to try and answer one simple question. Is the Booster Course Pass actually good? Initially having its first wave released on March 18th, 2022, the Booster Course Pass aimed to draw players back into Mario Kart 8 Deluxe by remastering courses from all over the Mario Kart series, even Tour, and adding them into the game over multiple waves. Starting off with the first wave, the tracks we got include Paris Promenade, Toad Circuit, Choco Mountain, Coconut Mall, Tokyo Blur, Shroom Ridge, Sky Garden, and Ninja Hideaway. Looking back on these picks now, they are incredibly basic. I mean, apart from Ninja Hideaway and Coconut Mall, the rest of the tracks here aren't all that interesting. Toad Circuit is literally the most basic that a Mario Kart track can get. Tokyo Blur and Shroom Ridge kind of blend in together too much. And don't even get me started on what they did to Sky Garden. I am all for GBA tracks getting amazing overhauls and changes when brought back as retros in modern Mario Karts. Just look at how incredible Ribbon Road and Cheeseland's overhauls were. But the difference with those tracks' overhauls as opposed to Sky Garden's is that while introducing so many new concepts and ideas to these GBA tracks, Ribbon Road and Cheeseland stuck to their original layouts, and despite all the new things they added to them, still felt like how those tracks felt back on the GBA. With Sky Garden, however, just one look at the map layout of this track in 8 Deluxe shows not only how much they changed the original layout, but simplified it. This track had so much potential to take advantage of Mario Kart 8's mechanics, yet instead we just got a watered down, babyified version of the course. Speaking of taking advantage of Mario Kart 8's mechanics though, not one track in this first wave features anti-gravity or underwater driving. Obviously this is completely okay. There are a lot of tracks in Mario Kart 8 that don't feature either of these mechanics, and it's not like I'm expecting nor want every track to. But when you're already simplifying tracks like Sky Garden, or just introducing extremely simple tracks in general like Toad Circuit and Tokyo Blur, the absence of these mechanics becomes very apparent. For a lot of the tracks in this wave, it just felt like the bare minimum was done. Even with one of the standout tracks, Coconut Mall, the cars at the end of the track that were pretty difficult and iconic moving obstacles in Wii and 7 were literally just stationary set pieces that did absolutely nothing if you touched or got near them in Wave 1. So despite all the hype and excitement surrounding this first wave of DLC, even the most diehard of Mario Kart fans, including myself, were pretty disappointed with a lot of Wave 1's shortcomings. But of all the things people were disappointed with or complained about at Wave 1's launch, the absolute biggest problem almost everyone had with it was the visuals. Ever since its release all the way back in 2014, Mario Kart 8 has continuously been praised for being one of the best looking Nintendo games ever made. It's clear that Nintendo put a hell of a lot of effort into making each track look as amazing as it possibly could on the hardware. With Wave 1 of the Booster Course Pass, however, well... Yeah, I mean, it was pretty obvious from the first trailer we got of this in the February Nintendo Direct that the Booster Course's graphics, at least this wave's, wouldn't be anywhere close to that of the main games. So many flat colors and unpolished textures made it very clear to fans that Nintendo was just porting tracks that were originally made for Tour, and only slightly touching them up graphically. This was incredibly disappointing, as alongside all the other issues I mentioned, it just made the Booster Course Pass feel like some cheap cash grab to take advantage of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe's popularity, rather than a genuine attempt to breathe new life into the game and keep it going a while longer. So, overall, while Wave 1 was incredibly exciting as we were finally receiving new Mario Kart 8 content after literal years, its many shortcomings and overall lackluster track selection left a pretty sour taste in a lot of people's mouths, and had many feeling very skeptical about the next 5 waves. But regardless of how people felt about Wave 1, only just a few months later in August, we would see the announcement and release of Wave 2. The tracks we got in this wave were New York Minute, Mario Circuit 3, Calamari Desert, Waluigi Pinball, Sydney Sprint, Snowland, Mushroom Gorge, and Sky High Sundae. Just from the announcement trailer alone, it was clear that Nintendo was really stepping up their game with Wave 2. The track selection was way more interesting, the graphics were noticeably improved, and despite the DLC being advertised as only featuring returning tracks, this announcement trailer showed us a brand new track not seen in any prior Mario Kart, not even Tour, Sky High Sundae. This track's announcement was confusing, but one that was exciting nonetheless. And after only just a few days of waiting, Wave 2 was officially released on August 4th, 2022. At release, this wave was met with a lot more positivity than the first. It really felt like Nintendo was listening to the complaints people had, and were genuinely striving to improve the pass. For example, after the outrage people had towards Coconut Mall removing the moving cars at the end, this wave actually updated the track to now make the cars that were once stationary actual obstacles that spin around and cause you to crash if they hit you. Or after people were super upset with Sky Garden's simplistic redesign, this wave's GBA track, Snowland, stuck to the course's original layout while also adding many new details and shortcuts that overall made it an incredible remake. One track that took many people by surprise in this wave though was Calamari Desert. Now, I've always been a pretty big fan of this track, and when it was announced for the Booster Course Pass, I was super excited. But wasn't expecting any drastic changes to this course, as Wave 1 didn't really add anything to its returning tracks. However, when I played it for the first time, I was absolutely shocked to realize they added an entirely new route to it that took place on the second lap. You see, in Mario Kart 64, Calamari Desert had this tunnel where the train would come out of and go into at the beginning of the course. This tunnel was not at all a part of the main track, and was only something you could really explore in time trials. In Mario Kart 8 though, the second lap incorporates this tunnel as a part of the course, and uses it as an all-new route, which I absolutely love. Adding new paths or routes to pre-existing tracks, especially in a way that incorporates a set piece that has always intrigued players or stood out to them, is nothing short of genius. It not only makes the track even more interesting for people who've never played it before, but it also breathes new life into courses longtime fans have raced on hundreds of times. Apart from Calamari Desert though, the real star of this wave was Waluigi Pinball, a fan favorite that people have been wanting in Mario Kart 8 for years. And while this track may not be my favorite from Mario Kart DS, I can very much appreciate its inclusion here. But as much as this wave was a big improvement on Wave 1, it still wasn't without its issues. While the graphics here were definitely better than Wave 1's, they still weren't even close to being on par with the base games, and that was a big issue for a lot of people, as it was still very clear these courses were being directly ported from Tour. On top of that, while this wave had incredible tracks like Waluigi Pinball and Mushroom Gorge, it also had SNES Mario Circuit 3, which featured absolutely no changes or differences from its last retro appearance in Mario Kart Wii. At the very least, they could have added a glider somewhere or maybe raised the track at some points, so it wouldn't be completely flat the whole way through, but they didn't, and it leads to this being one of the most boring tracks in the entire game. Also, the brand new track in this game, Sky High Sundae, was pretty cool to see, as we'd never seen it anywhere before. But in the end, this course does the exact same thing Excite Bike Arena does. It's an oval-shaped course filled with trickable ramps. On to Wave 3, this wave completed the first row of cups and marked the halfway point for the DLC. Introducing London Loop, Boo Lake, Rock Mountain, Maple Treeway, Berlin Byways, Peach Gardens, Merry Mountain, and 3DS Rainbow Road. Alongside the new tracks in this update, Wave 3 also introduced a custom items mode, where you could turn on and off specific items, a feature people have wanted in Mario Kart for decades. Similar to Wave 2, the courses in this wave still weren't up to par with the visuals of the base game, but also weren't as bad as the first wave, with just one exception: Rock Mountain. Gameplay-wise, this track plays great and is always fun to race on. Visually though, it's pretty bad. I mean, when you go off the glider ramp here and start flying through the air, you're gonna want some pretty visuals to look at. But instead, you just get a bunch of flat colors that are not at all appealing to look at. This is really unfortunate because while Nintendo does show genuine improvement graphically in a lot of tracks, courses like this still slip through the cracks and make them harder to appreciate when you have stuff that looks 10 times better releasing in the same wave. But while Rock Mountain falls short only because of its visuals, another track in this wave, London Loop, falls short because of its gameplay. The Tour City tracks are courses that I, and a lot of others, aren't the biggest fans of. Sure, their gimmick of changing every lap is cool, but a lot of the time the layouts of these tracks feel pretty directionless. And instead of trying to make a fun Mario Kart level, these courses often feel like they're trying to check things off on a checklist. Oh, we're in New York, we need to have the Empire State Building, Central Park, Times Square, etc. And in this attempt to fill a checklist, the actual layout and design of the course feels like an afterthought and leads to that directionless feeling. I'm specifically calling out London Loop on this because I feel like it's the biggest offender of the tour tracks being directionless. This map is almost impossible to follow your first way through. The turns seem to come out of absolutely nowhere, and overall, the course just feels empty. And I mean, since the whole gimmick of the tour tracks in the first place is that they're based on real-world locations with famous landmarks, why not incorporate those landmarks into the track more? If we're in London and you really want the Big Ben to be a part of it, why is it just in the background? Why isn't it actually incorporated into the track? There could have been this incredibly cool section where you go up Big Ben and have this mini clock section that could even use pre-existing assets from TikTok Clock or something. There is just so much potential in a lot of the city tour tracks, especially London Loop. On a more positive note though, this wave reintroduced half-pipes from Mario Kart Wii that are a lot of fun on the two tracks that use them in this wave, Maple Treeway and Merry Mountain. Also, similar to Calamari Desert, Peach Gardens was given a new route on the last lap that actually takes you through the entirety of the course backwards, which I love. The thing that had everyone most excited about this wave though was 3DS Rainbow Road. This Rainbow Road is hailed by many as the best in the series, and I can absolutely see why. The course is handled super well here, visually and gameplay wise. Moving to Wave 4, this is where the Booster Course Pass really stepped up in quality. This wave not only brought 8 new tracks, Amsterdam Drift, Riverside Park, DK Summit, Yoshi's Island, Bangkok Rush, DS Mario Circuit, Waluigi Stadium, and Singapore Speedway, it also brought us a brand new character, Birdo, and the promise of 5 more new characters down the line. This was an incredible surprise, and just another example of the Booster Course Pass continuously adding things that weren't originally advertised. I don't know if this was some sort of marketing strategy by Nintendo to keep hype around the DLC alive, or they just decided to add more stuff over time, but it is absolutely genius. Graphically, this wave was on another level with some of its courses. Tracks like Riverside Park and Waluigi Stadium are genuinely on par with the base game in a lot of ways. And the completely brand new track in this wave, Yoshi's Island, felt like something we'd see in Mario Kart 9 with how original and well made it is. Wave 4 was a big turning point for a lot of the hate the DLC was getting. It literally improved upon almost everything people were complaining about, while also giving new incentive to buy the Booster Course Pass because of the new characters. With the release of Wave 5 though, Booster Course Pass hype was at the highest it had been since the initial announcement of the DLC, all the way back in February of 2022. This wave brought us Athens Dash, Daisy Cruiser, Moonview Highway, Squeaky Clean Sprint, LA Laps, Sunset Wilds, Koopa Cape, and Vancouver Velocity. Alongside that, we also got 3 new characters, PD Piranha, Wiggler, and Kamek. But even with all the hype that accompanied this wave at release, this wave in specific highlighted a huge problem with the Booster Course Pass that people had been complaining about for a while: the unfair course distribution. With the exclusion of Wave 5, up to this point, every single wave had featured one Wii track. With this wave, however, we were given two Wii tracks in the same update. This bothered a ton of people, because while yes, Mario Kart Wii is incredibly popular and features some of the most iconic tracks in the series, its overrepresentation in the DLC left games like Super Mario Kart and Mario Kart 64 to be super underrepresented, with both of them only getting two tracks each by the time the entire DLC was out. And not only was Wii being overrepresented in the pass, all the tracks chosen for it were fan favorites. While games like Mario Kart DS got tracks like Mario Circuit and Shroom Ridge, as opposed to its fan favorites, like Airship Fortress and Luigi's Mansion. Apart from the overrepresentation drama though, Wave 5 was extremely strong. The brand new course of this update, Squeaky Clean Sprint, is still one of my favorite Mario tracks ever. The only other real big issue with Wave 5 was that the Sun and Sunset Wilds just doesn't set for some reason, despite that being the main gimmick of the track in Super Circuit, and it also setting in Tour. Yeah, I don't know what Nintendo was thinking there. And if Wave 5 wasn't enough to convince you of Wii's overrepresentation, then just look at Wave 6. This wave brought with it Romavanti, DK Mountain, Daisy Circuit, Piranha Plant Cove, Madrid Drive, Rosalina's Ice World, SNES Bowser's Castle 3, and Wii Rainbow Road. And while we thought we were only getting two characters in this wave, Nintendo instead surprised us again and gave us 4 new characters. Those being Diddy Kong, Funky Kong, Pauline, and Peachette. As a Wii fan, I absolutely love Wave 6. But I can understand why some were disappointed to not see their favorite courses from other Mario Kart games return in this wave. The characters here though are top notch. The amount of effort put into Funky Kong and Pauline alone is crazy. Their animations are super well done and make them an absolute blast to play as. Hell, Pauline even sings when she's gliding. The standouts of this wave though have to be SNES Bowser's Castle 3 and Wii Rainbow Road. The glow up from the completely flat, unchanged SNES Mario Circuit 3 to the completely overhauled and redesigned SNES Bowser's Castle 3 is crazy. There was so much effort put into making this track's overhaul as interesting as it possibly could be. I love how instead of changing the layout of the track, and just in general simplifying it like they did with Sky Garden, this track stays true to its original layout and adds so much more depth to it, and in my eyes, really shows how far the Booster Course Pass has come. Wii Rainbow Road though, might just be my absolute favorite track of the entire DLC, and maybe Mario Kart 8 in general. Everything from the gameplay, the music, the visuals, just make this track an absolute joy to race on. I mean, the fact that they brought back the firefall effect that would happen when you fell off the track in Wii, just shows how much love was put into this course. It is an absolutely stellar track to end the DLC on, and a perfect way to send off Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe's Booster Course Pass will almost certainly go down in history as one of the weirdest but coolest DLCs Nintendo has ever done. I mean, DLC for a 5-year-old Switch port of an 8-year-old Wii U game was certainly an interesting choice. From its initial reveal, it had people astonished at the fact that they were adding 48 courses to the game for only $25. At the same time though, it also had people very worried, as it was obvious from the announcement trailer that the graphics would be a sizable step down from the main game. As the waves went on though, not only did the graphics get better, but so did the additions. We went from thinking we were strictly only getting courses in the pass, and that they would all be returning tracks, to getting a brand new mode in the form of custom items mode, 3 completely brand new never seen before tracks, and 8 new characters. Yes, the Booster Course Pass had a rough launch. Yes, it's not perfect and still has many issues. But at the end of the day, with all the new things added to it over time, the increase in effort graphically, and the extremely low price tag of $25, it's hard not to recommend this DLC. So to answer the question posed at the very beginning of this video, is the Booster Course Pass actually good? Yes, it's pretty amazing.